Good Thursday morning, Market Chameleons, and everyone joining for the first time. Thanks for coming by and checking out the Market Chameleon pre-market show with this man, Nietzsche Pargamonic. How you doing, D?
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Good. You want to start with the disclaimer?
Yep. Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, keep in mind Will and I and Market Chameleon, we're not a registered investment advisor. We're not a broker dealer. We're not telling you what to do. We're just sharing ideas. If you need advice, call your registered investment advisor, call your broker. That's what they're there for. There's the disclaimer.
Excellent.
And I'm going to share my screen. If you're joining us for the first time, Will and I, we do these shows in the morning to try to help answer questions you may have about the Market Chameleon tools, the data or analytics. If you have a question, type it into the live chat on YouTube. Will's watching it. He'll read them back to me. While we're, to give you guys a couple minutes to enter in your questions, we'll start out taking a look at the pre-market report, see what kind of insights we could get on stocks trading in pre-market hours, and then we'll move on to the questions. So pre-market report, these are stocks trading in pre-market hours. We have this calendar view up top. You could go back dates in history, see what happened on that date in the pre-market hours. Today, we're November 9th, and so far, this is what's going on in the pre-market from a high level. We got 480 stocks trading higher, 235 stocks trading lower. We have 100, as far as volume goes, we got 103.4 million shares trading on up volume versus 53.7 million shares trading on down volume. And as far as notional, if we convert this volume to dollar value, you have $2 billion worth of stock trading higher, $845 million worth of stock trading lower. So from this perspective, it looks like the trading in the pre-market hours is trading with some bullish bias, bullish sentiment. And that kind of looks like it's been going, if we just spot check this with our eyes here, for the most part, that's what's been going on this week. Let's look at it from another perspective. I'm going to come down here, and here we have a list of our most active stocks, our biggest percentage gainers, biggest percentage decliners. I see 77 stocks made our biggest percentage gainers list, 39 are decliners. So from that perspective, that also points to a bullish bias at the open. However, if you take a look at this list, we have small cap stocks in there, we have ETFs in there, leverage products. So you could tell any security that's listed on a major US exchange, if it's trading in the pre-market hours and meets the thresholds that we set to make this list, it can make the list. And to narrow it down to a smaller group of stocks, we could use the filters above here. If you have a watch list, you could filter by your watch list. We're going to use this one in ETF. I'm going to click on that. You get a drop-down menu to select from. We have broad-based ETFs, sector ETFs, but let's choose SPY. That's the S&P 500 ETF. And when you select it, the list below gets filtered by stocks that are holdings in the SPY ETF, which are the S&P 500 constituents. And here we got 14 stocks made our percentage gainers list, 4 in the decliners. So from this perspective as well, looks like we're pointing to some bullish, trading, bullish price behavior in pre-market hours. We still get some earnings coming out. I think Disney just came out. So these little E's here, that's an indication that there's an earnings. And you see Disney up 4%, MGM, and so forth. So still earnings trickling in. But this is how it looks like in a pre-market. And Will, if you've got questions, I guess I'll take them now.
No questions have shown up yet.
Okay.
Other than, it wasn't a question. Rob just mentioned Santa Claus rally has already started, according to some. And we were just
Yeah.
talking about before we got on, just was so many issues in the world. And I know there are always issues, right? We are humans and there's stuff going on. But two wars that, we're seem to be financing, it just seems like so much is going on. But the market does what the market does. It's not really
Yeah.
necessarily dependent on what's going on.
No, it's I mean, here I'm going to go to the historical data and I'll show you. These are daily for SPY. This is kind of a summary for each day. Open, high, low, close, the price change. Well, you got some option data here, but you could see here that since October 30th, right, every day so far the market's been higher. So you can see it's pretty strong so far. That I don't know what is that, like 9 days in a row, all up. And if we take a look at the seasonality here, and we're talking about that November tends to be a positive month, right? Like if we look back in history, the last 10 years, we could see that 90%, there's only one here month that wasn't up, and that was barely down, relative to the other ones. So 90% of the Novembers tend to be up, right? And for an average gain of 3.5%. So we're up already. We're about a third of the way into it, 4.6%. That's, and if we're up today, we're already close to 5%. And let's see, the median move, 3.1. It does tend to be one of the best performing month, or one of the best performing months out there. Maybe over here we had some, April, May are pretty good months, but as far as if you take the frequency of up moves and the magnitude, maybe only July, competes with it. So November, typically a very good month. Up so far almost 5%. If this holds today, 4.6 so far. But let's take a look at it since we're talking about it. I'm going to go here to price action analysis. Hold on. So this is our historical return distribution. I'm going to put in SPY. And let's turn to seasonality. All right. And I think we looked at it from the point of 10 years, but I'll expand it to 12 years of data. All right. We'll use last 12 years of data. And let's start from the first. I'm just going to do from November 1st, all the way to the end. All right. So this is for the entire month of. So what we're going to do is look at the last 12 years of data for the month of November and get more stats, right? So here, when we expanded it, right, we have 83% of the observations are higher. So remember, we expanded this to 12 years, so we got another one over here. On average, the gain for the last 12 years is close to 3%, 2.88. You could see that the average positive move, the average negative move, very low. This is the best, 10.9%, the worst, 1%. But here, we also see how the average return progressed from November 1st. And you could see it just steadily goes up. So there's no like peak in the middle or anything. It just kind of like, gets a little bit choppy over here. But then like come November, like right around thing, it just kind of goes up. So very strong performance in the month of November, which is what we're seeing, what we're seeing now. And some of it, we are having earnings coming out as well. But just money tends to flow in November, right? And we could see that happening right now. So this is the historical performance, and here you have a breakdown by year. And only two negative, right? The most negative over here. Here are the best ones on the 2020, 2022, 10.9%, 6. So we are, though, getting, we're getting up there towards the high range already. We're above the average, we're above the median. You could see that. What did I say that we were up so far, Will?
I think you said four something percent.
Yeah, like 4.6. So you could see that, there are 2 years, if we just looked at the high-low range, 2 years that it performed better than that in 2020 and 2022. So, even though we're a third way into it, we're, already, getting to the top range of the performance. Not to say can't make a new, beat this out. We could see how many observations historically were even below so far this year's performance alone. And again, there's other factors that go into it, right? People are enthusiastic about AI and stuff like that, but this just kind of shows the tendency how things traded in the month of November. There's a question. There are no questions on this. And here we could actually look. What did I say? 4.6%. So if we put 4.6% in here, here's what it's shown us that, so far in the month of November, we didn't have occurrences below 4.6%, and there are only 2 instances, 16.7% of the time, that the market performed better than that. And it's just to show you, like, we are, from a historical point of view, we're on already the top of that range, and we still have 2/3 of the way to go. I'm gonna go. I think there are questions about 0 DTE options here. So let's go to the 0 DTE. Oops. Hold on. So for the 0 DTE options, I think there are questions about the straddle prices and the how the stock tends to perform different parts of the day. I think Rob came on and said, like, well, what about from if you're starting at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, right? What is the straddle? So this is these stats. That's what this helps us look at. Now, so far the markets are closed, so we don't have a straddle to analyze today, right? So a 0 DTE option is an option that will expire today. So it starts today, expires today, but the trading didn't start yet, right? We could only see yesterday's data. So far the data, we don't have data for today. This is pre-market, but let's assume that right now, and I'm going to make it up, let's say it's 11 o'clock, right? So let's say trading started and it's 11 o'clock, okay? And we don't know what the straddle will be at 11, so we're going to ignore that. But what we want to do is say, well, usually what is a 0 DTE straddle at 11 o'clock? Like, where do we think it should be priced on average? And so we could look back at historicals and see, like, at 11 o'clock, what is a 0 DT straddle? How much premium is there? And we could also look at it from the perspective, well, if we buy a straddle right at 11 and wait till 4, what is the straddle? What is the bet? Well, it's an over-under bet, right? It's, if you're buying it, then you're saying that the stock will move by a big enough percentage to cover the cost of both the call or put, or it won't. So then we want to also analyze, well, what does the stock usually do from 11 to 4 o'clock, right? To the close. So when I put 11, okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to load it, and we want to see the stats from 11 to the close. What it was. So so the current straddle we don't have, right? So this would be the current straddle. We can't analyze it because we only have yesterday's 0DT. But we could look at historical averages. So here's the historical. What it's telling us is that at 11 a.m., usually on average, the straddle as a percentage of spot price, right, is 30.39%. Okay. Like 0.39 of 1% of the spot price. Well, what does that mean in terms of dollar value? Well, if we take this 0.39 and multiply times the last stock price that we have, it would mean that the straddle, if you found the straddle exactly, at the spot price, would be around $1.71, right? So that was that's the average premium. And then the next question is, well, what does the stock actually do? How much does the stock move up or down on average? Doesn't matter if it goes up, doesn't matter if it goes down. What we want to know is the magnitude of the move. What is the average magnitude of the move? And it happens to be also 0.39. So this was so you could see here the straddle is pretty close to the actual move, which would be $1.71. All right. So that's at 11 o'clock. Now, we don't know what today 11 o'clock is, but this is what the historical averages are, looking at all our history. And over here, we also could see, now these are the averages, so that doesn't mean every day it's exactly like that, right? Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. So here we could actually go back and look at the history and see, well, where was the straddle priced? That's these bars up here, up and down. So you see these brackets, that means the straddle was priced for move either up or down by that percentage, right? So that's what these brackets are. So you could see that the straddles sometimes are priced higher, sometimes lower. So they have a pretty big range. They fluctuate. It's not exactly the same place. Sometimes they're higher, sometimes they're lower. That's the average. And then you could see next to it on that same day, well, how did the stock perform from 11 to the end? So over here, we have a picture of actually what the straddle was priced at 11 o'clock, because that's what we chose, right? We chose this at 11 o'clock. And then we could see what the stock actually did from 11 to 4 to see, did the stock move by a bigger amount or a smaller amount by the end of the day. So you could see the last 3 days, the stock, or even further, 4 days, the stock did not move by the amount that the straddle was implying. Basically, the price of the straddle overestimated the move on those days. But, we got days here that the straddle underestimated, maybe over here by a little bit. Certainly to the downside, 1, 2, 3, it underestimated here. But this is going back, and you could pull this chart back more. You could keep going back. But that's how you could, there's a lot of observations. These stats here also help us out by saying, okay, when the stock moved up from 11 to 4, what was the average move to the upside? So when the stock moved up, the average move to the upside was 0.36, which would translate to $1.57. Okay. So if you're just looking at the call, and saying, well, what was if I do think it's just going to move up, what's the price of the call? So when it goes up, the average move is $1.57. What about down? What if I'm just looking at the put? I don't want the strat. I just want to know about the put, and I want to know, okay, well, if it's moving down, does, what's the average move down, right? To the downside, if you're really, are convinced that the market's going down, or you want to buy protection or whatever. Well, the average move to the downside was 0.42. So you could see that to the downside so far, it was more volatile to the upside, and the downside move, if we translate it to the dollar value of the put, it's $1.84, right? So we're multiplying, remember, the percent times the current stock price, right? And this shows us, you could see that more often the stock did go up. So 59% of the time it went higher versus 41. So most of the, so far we've been more leaning towards the upside. What about the straddle? How well did it do historically predicting the actual move, and how much did it error by? Right, like that's the next part. Well, all right, if we're looking at the straddle, how well is it predicting the actual move? Number one, and number two, if it errored, how much was the error? So 42% of the time, the straddle underestimated the move. Okay, so underestimating the move means that the move was greater than the straddle. The straddle was underpriced 42% of the time. 58% of the time, the straddle overestimated the move, meaning the straddle was priced higher. It was overvalued. It was priced higher than the actual. What about the error? But how much, even if it overestimated by a lot, by a little, like what was the error? So here's the error. When it underestimated the move, the error on average was 0.29%. All right, so in other words, that when the stock moved beyond where the straddle was implying, right, it moved beyond by an average of 0.29%, 0.3%, which you can multiply that times the stock price, which is like, right now we've been like $1 or something, right? What about the overestimate? How much did we overestimate the move? Is it a little bit? Was it a lot? Like, what are we talking about here? So it overestimated the move, but was it close? Like over here, like some of these are very close. You could see that the move was almost exactly what the straddle predicted. Right here, let me move closer. So you could see here on this one, the actual move, the green line, that's how much the stock was up, was almost exactly what the straddle was predicting, right? It was like right in line. This one, almost, the move was a little bit higher, right? This one was almost in line. But these over here, you could see that there was a big difference. The straddle was implying a move up or down by this much, but you see the move was very little. So we want to know, well, what was the average error here? What are we talking about? Okay, so here we go over, this separates the overestimate. These are overestimated. These three, the move was overestimated because you could see these bars thought the move was going to be up or down by this much, but the move was very small. So how much did it error by? So over here, it errored by an average mean squared error of 0.21%. Right, so that was so if we take 0.21% times whatever the spot price is, that's what the error was. So it's like, if the stock's $400, it's like, then in today's dollar terms, if we converted it, it'd be like 80 cents, right? Remember, we're using percentages, but if you wanted to just like get a sense of the dollar, you could multiply by the spot price. So this gives us a sense. Yeah.
We did have a question from Rob that popped in. He said, Will, please ask Dimitri if the calculation has calculated the move with the overall move of the market advance decline, i.e., is the market overall rising or falling part of this price?
Well, this is just looking at all the moves, irrelevant of advanced decline. So this is just looking at daily moves. It's not separating them just for days where there's more advances, declines. It doesn't do that right now. It's just looking at all the moves. Now, if you wanted to filter down the moves further, we have these other filters. So we added to look, for example, if you wanted to look at just day of the week, because maybe Mondays and Tuesdays are different than Thursdays and Fridays, for example, or Fridays. So we could take a look, like today's Friday. So if and remember, you could change this, right? I just selected 11, but let's say if today's Friday, it's 11 o'clock. We could rerun this analysis for Friday. And now we have new stats for just Fridays. Okay. So these are just Fridays, new stats. And now, we could go back and take a look at what happened on Fridays if we wanted to separate. So you could see that all these are different now, a little bit different. So the idea there is to say, okay, what is the straddle today? At 11 o'clock. And then, so that's going to pop in here. So you'll be able to then analyze it. And how much does it diverge from the historical norms? Is it, and, how does it compare to historical? You have these stats here now. How much it did diverge? How much typically did it error? What did it tend to do? So you can make much more informed decisions on your 0 DTE options. But we're right up at 9:30, so I'm gonna probably end it right there.
Awesome job, Dima, as always, my friend. Thank you very much.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining. Stay safe out there. Have a great trading day. Have a great weekend. And
Well, actually, it's Thursday, right?
Oh, wait, you're right. Thursday. Sorry.
Is it Thursday?
Right. I don't know why I jumped to Friday. Yeah, it is. You're right. Today is Thursday. So today is Thursday. My apologies. So I'm going to see you guys tomorrow.
Awesome.
Yep.
Everyone have a safe trading day. Trade in peace. Great job, D. Thanks.